As a connoisseur of video games and all things nerdy, I love Japanese things. Modern Japanese culture has produced some wonderful and weird creations, from the masterpieces of Studio Ghibli to some more questionable forms of entertainment. And of course, Japan produces video games in abundance, a lot of which never see an international release. Fortunately, there are companies such as Xseed, whose goal is to find potential games that may appeal to a wider audience, localize and re-release them. Back in the early 2000s, Eidos Interactive had a stab at this under their Fresh Games label. A commendable move, but unfortunately this only yielded a grand total of 5 games.
Wow.
But a varied bunch they were, like golf, a space shooter, an RPG, whatever the hell this is, and what we'll be looking at today, one of my personal favourite music games, Mad Maestro. Amongst the usual rap, pop, rock and band games, boy did that fad dive pretty quickly, it's a pleasure to see classical music take the spotlight. The city of Bravo Town. And in this town with a long musical past stands the grand old concert hall. Recently, the townsfolk have begun modernising the town, and a decision was made to tear the concert hall down. Such a travesty awakens Symphony, a fairy who has been guarding the hall for many years. To save the hall, Symphony seeks the help of the conductor of the local youth orchestra, Tact.
Tact! You're Tact the conductor, right?
Putting on a big concert and getting the musical spirit back into people is the solution.
What? You don't think you can do it? You're afraid? You don't have enough people.
But Tact needs more musicians. So Symphony proposes that Tact heads out and uses his magical powers to recruit other members of this musical society.
There are a lot of people here that are sure to join us.
The story progression works a lot like Parappa the Rapper or Jamalami. You encounter a variety of colourful characters facing a situation of some sort and you help them out with the power of music. So, how does this actually work? Don't worry, you don't actually control an entire orchestra, that would be a daunting task, or require lots of extra peripherals which may have gone down well during the aforementioned band craze. You play as Tact, and it's your job to conduct your way through the stages. In the centre of the screen is the tempo meter. This obviously dictates the speed and, depending on the amount of cue points, the time signature of the piece. You press one of the face buttons in time with the cue ball. All the face buttons do the same thing, just choose one you feel most comfortable with. Now, who here remembers the analog buttons? I'll explain anyway. With the release of the PlayStation 2, Sony updated the DualShock by not just having analog sticks but also making the main buttons analog, meaning a difference in input depending on how hard it's pressed. Several games utilise this to varying degrees of success. In Metal Gear Solid 2, for example, you could use the analog function of the shoulder buttons to subtly peek around corners, but due to the sensitive nature of the analog control, this was twitchy and impractical. Mad Maestro, however, has the best use of the analog buttons I've come across. The cue points are coloured blue, green and red. These indicate the intensity of the music and your button of choice is pressed with the appropriate pressure. This works very well. Distinguishing between the three is easy, and you can even fine-tune them by adjusting the thresholds in the options. On your merry musical journey finding potential participants, you perform an assortment of pieces from the great masters, 34 to be locked in all, including Mozart, Brahms, Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, Offenbach, Wagner and more. Success relies on keeping good timing and keeping an eye out for part indicators to bring in different instruments. These are to be pressed on the D-pad in time with the face button. The manual doesn't mention this, but I'm sure the part indicator has to be pressed at the same pressure because, yes, even the D-pad was analog. Your performance is evaluated via the tension meter. Performing well will fill it and you will enter angel mode. Performing badly will empty the meter into devil mode. A few bars of this will end the performance to the booing of the audience. This is the one problem I have with this game. You can perform the entire piece flawlessly, but if you mess up the last few bars, you fail and get a booing. Oh, screw you! I feel being judged by the overall performance would be a fairer assessment than just your status right at the end. There is a child mode, so all you youngsters out there can play along without the complications of part direction, button pressure, and no matter how badly you suck, the piece will always finish. All unlocked music can be listened to separately via the music room, and of course can be replayed at any time in free play. What unfortunately feels like an afterthought are the mini-games. Before one starts you are given a scenario, something to do. But in order to do this you simply conduct a piece as normal. All the games are like this, they're no different from the main game, there's just something else going on in the background. Well, with everybody gathered and the cardboard cutout crowd filling the hall, it's time for the big concert. This somewhat alleviates my gripe by not having the tension meter and leaving it up to audience reaction. You perform a few pieces and as long as you do well for most of the concert, the audience will be overall pleased. I love this game. It's a charming, engaging and uplifting experience based around some of the greatest music ever written. The story and variety of characters illustrate that no matter who you are or your walk of life, we can all come together and share in our universal love for music. It's a shame this never went further than just the PlayStation 2. Re-releases on the Wii and the PlayStation Network would have been great. The Wii has the Wii mode, ideal as a conducting baton. Same for the Move controller. Not to mention I think this game deserves more attention. Technology may not be timeless, but this music certainly is. Find this, play this. Because I can bet conducting along to say Ode to Joy, even if it's just with a controller, will put a smile on your face.